Athletics is so similar to the business aspect of things. At the bare bones of it, how do you work with people is what it comes down to, and how do you interact with people? How do you utilize someone that you can learn from, and what questions you ask? And it makes a big difference. It doesn't matter if you're in athletics, if you're in business.
Welcome to Mental Stillness. My name is Derek, and I'm excited that somehow you stumbled across this podcast. One of my goals when starting this podcast was to bring mental health conversations into leadership circles. Well, Kevin, thanks for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me. I mean, when you asked me to come on, it was a no-brainer. So, I watched a few of your episodes, and you do a great job, and I'm excited to get started, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, share a little bit of just backstory, what got you here, and maybe you even want to share where we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I hope I'm a little interesting. I hope people enjoy that.
We'll all judge you at the end, and we'll vote, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, so my title, I'm the Director of Athletic Performance and Strength and Conditioning for the University of Kentucky women's basketball team. So where we're at right now is in the film room where the ladies will watch film and go through their scouts on different opponents. But just a little bit about me. I am originally from Northwest Indiana. So I'm Indiana born and raised. So the town I'm from is a small town called Griffith. It's about 30 minutes outside Chicago. I love sports, so it's no...
You're in a good spot then.
Yeah, it's no surprise that I ended up in the profession I'm in. But I went to Purdue for my undergrad, so I was there for the 4 years there, and I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. So that was the plan. Going into undergrad, that's what I was taking all my prereqs to do that. But I got to the point, I believe it was my junior year, when you're starting to apply to these PT schools, and you have to get X amount of numbers of shadowing. So I started to shadow for a week at this clinic, and I hated it. I hated it so much.
There's so Time to pivot.
Yep, there was so much paperwork. I'm like, I want to work in sports, but in all reality, everyone wanted to work in sports. So most likely I would have been at a clinic, maybe working with some high school kids, but mostly general population or elderly population is what most people end up falling into, and that's just not what I wanted to do. So yeah, like you said, I had to pivot really quickly, and I honestly just stumbled upon the field of strength and conditioning. I had no idea that this was even a job. So it was just a random, scouring the internet, trying to find, okay, where do I think fit? And I found this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is perfect. This would be exactly.
Why didn't they tell me about this earlier?
Exactly. So when I was doing the research on how do I become a strength coach, it was very similar to physical therapy school. So all the prereqs I needed, I still needed to go to grad school. So I was like, okay, I already got all these prereqs. Now I just know I need to go to graduate school still. I ended up going to grad school at Indiana University. So right after I graduated Purdue, I switched sides, which is a big no-no. But I will say I grew up an Indiana fan, which now at Kentucky is also a big no-no. But it
would have been a bigger deal a few decades ago.
Oh yes, for sure. But yeah, I did my master's degree at IU, and immediately when I started there, I started working and volunteering in the weight room. So I was an unpaid intern. My first year, working with all different sports, which was an outstanding opportunity. Indiana has 24 sports. I worked with 22 of them. So everything but men's basketball and football. So anything the other full-time strength coaches needed, I was there, whether it was setting up, cleaning, coaching on the floor, working very long hours for literally zero pay. But I loved it. It was a really fast-paced environment. It was constantly changing. And I was just like, this is exactly what I want to do. So I was fortunate enough. My first year, unpaid intern. Second year, I got a little paycheck, and they paid me 10 hours a week. The next year, it bumped up to 29 hours a week. And then my fourth year, I got hired on full-time in the same capacity with women's basketball that I'm in now. So I was there until 2024. So I was there for 12 or 13 years. And then I ended up here, which was a very difficult decision. I thought I was going to be at Indiana my entire life. I loved it there. I loved the people there. But it got to the point, I got a call from Coach Brooks when he got the job here at Kentucky.
The women's basketball coach.
Head coach. And it was one of those things, perfect timing. If it was even a year later, I bet I would have said no. But I have 2 young kids. My son at the time was 4 and my daughter at the time was 3. So they weren't in school yet. I also just felt like at Indiana, we had built that program up. We were rolling. We started my first year not even making the WNIT. And then by the second to last years there, we won the Big Ten and we're 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I felt like we accomplished a ton there. And me professionally, I kind of was on autopilot. We had a culture that was awesome. So it was like, okay, I could just tell the ladies, yep, do this, and they would do it. And I'd be like, okay, what's my impact? So I felt like it was a perfect time for that to kind of help rebuild a program like Kentucky with the brand that it is, and with Coach Brooks, who's an amazing coach, an amazing person. It just sounded like an offer I couldn't refuse. So that's a little bit about me and how I've kind of gotten here today, which it's been great so far. We love Lexington. We love being part of the UK community.
Yeah, and we're in the historic Memorial Coliseum, which, do you have to say the full phrase?
I think
Is it like the Ohio State University situation?
I think you don't have, the first year you had to say historic. I don't know about the after the renovation.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like, it's pretty modernized now.
Yes, they did an outstanding job.
It's crazy. It's funny. We're down here all the time for the women's games, and I tell my kids, it's like, this is so different. I used to come to camp here, men's basketball camp, middle school. I don't know why they don't have my jersey in the rafters. I won the 3-point shootout in 1999.
We'll see if we can do anything about that.
Yeah, I got to kind of find my picture of Tubby Smith, handing me a basketball for winning the 3-point shootout. That was my peak. It's only been downhill since then. But no, this is such an amazing complex. And when I think about strength and conditioning, obviously there's probably a very okay, you're counting reps and setting weights, but talk a little bit about beyond strength and conditioning, because it's so much more layered than that. So talk to the audience, who probably most people here aren't in the field. They may work out, but what you do is so different, and you're working with young kids, young adults. So talk about just beyond just setting weights, wiping down benches. What is strength and conditioning?
And like you said, it is a lot more than just picking stuff up and setting it down, right? Which is, at the end of the day, that is what we're doing, right? But there's a whole science aspect to things, whether what specific rep ranges or what specific intensities train what type of key performance metric. So whether you're training for power, strength, speed, there's different things, different nuances with that. But honestly, I got into the field, and what I love about it is the relationship piece that you're able to have with these athletes and coaches that you work with. Most people don't know, a strength coach often spends more time with the kids than even the sport coaches, so the head coach and their assistants. When I'm in the weight room training someone, I always use this. So if they're on the court and they're working with their head coach, position coach, they're working, they're passing, rebounding. What's the next drill? What's the next thing? So they're working. There's not a lot of conversation that can be had because they have an hour or whatever block. I might get an hour block, but guess what? It takes 30 seconds to do 10 reps on a bench press, and then you have to rest. So what are you doing during that rest? You're
connecting.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's my favorite part, and you're able to make a really big impact on these people, more so than they even realize at first. It's my job to make people do stuff that they don't want to do, right? So if I'm going to ask them to do that, I better have a relationship with them, and they better realize that I care about not only them as a basketball player, but them as a person. Okay, so that's a big factor in getting someone to really buy in to not only what I want them to accomplish, but what the program wants them to accomplish. So that's my favorite part about strength and conditioning. The programming is one thing, and you need to know that. That's very important. But really, you can have the best program in the world, but if you can't get people to buy in or can't get people to work hard and believe in what you're doing, it doesn't matter. So I love the aspect of connecting and making relationships and hopefully having an impact on all the athletes that I get to train. When
you use the word intensity, right? And so when you're coaching someone, you're getting to know them, and there's different, my assumption is everybody in the weight room has different goals. Maybe there's certain, maybe it gets so granular where certain parts of their body they're trying to strengthen versus the other, or maybe it's beyond that, professional Olympics. Like, how customized is strength and conditioning to the athlete? You're sitting there, it's probably different. It's not just one plan for the whole basketball team.
Sure.
So talk about that.
Very different, very individualized, and that's why we have a bunch of different, whether it's like science stuff, so like force plates, different sorts of technology that we utilize, and I take them through a bunch of testing protocols right when they step foot on campus. So that is more the nuts and bolts, like, okay, you're deficient in this movement or this plane, or you need to work on this, whether that's explosive power, whether that's just getting stronger. So what I say is it's all individualized, but it's more so how people do things. So the exercises might be the same. Like, I might have a freshman that's coming in this year that most freshmen just need to get stronger. Like, to be more physical and play at this level, they usually need to gain some strength. But then I might have a fifth-year senior that has been in a weight room for 4 years and their strength bucket is overflowing. So both of them might back squat or do some sort of squat variation. So the same exercise, but how that looks is completely different. So the freshman, they may be moving the barbell at a slower intensity or slower speed, so higher weight. Whereas this fifth-year senior who's already strong enough, I don't need to keep putting weight on the bar. They're strong enough. So maybe they need to work on their explosive power. So it's going to be lighter weight, but moving it a heck of a lot faster. So you're training something different. Same exercise, but different intent behind each one. So that's how it's individualized, just through the nuts and bolts of how I change things. So, but even then, like, you get to the mental side of things, or the different person. Like, I can't coach everyone the same, right? Like,
just like your kids, right?
Exactly right. I can be hard on some people, but other people, I can call people out in front of the team, and that's a great motivator. Other people, that shuts them down. Again, the relationship piece is so important, because I need to know, and I'll ask them sometimes, like, how do you want me to coach you if I feel like I'm not getting through to them, or it's not they're not accomplishing a task that I'm trying to get them to do. So that aspect is individualized as well, and how I talk to them, how I motivate them, how I push them. Because everyone's different, and some people it takes a kick in the butt to get them going, and other people are just, no, you told me to do this, I got it, and I'm going to do it to the best. So
you said part of your job earlier is to make people do things they maybe don't want to do. Like, psychologically, we all pursue comfort and the path of least resistance, right? And there's a physiological reason that we're hardwired to do that. So you're in a position where you're challenging that, you're pushing that, coming from a foundational relationship, which makes so much sense. How do you determine, this isn't like a Bud's Navy SEAL training where you're trying to push people to their breaking point to rebuild them, or maybe it is like that. So how do you when is too far when it comes to the pushing of someone? How do you calibrate that? You're trying to get them to prove to themselves they can do more. They're fighting that, maybe they're resisting that. Like, are you trying to get them to their breaking point and rebuild them? Navy SEAL training?
To an extent, right? It's always, safety is the number one thing. So I always say, we work hard, but we work smart, right? So a big thing and a big way that I continue to have the ladies know that they're getting better, I track everything. So whether it's a certain distance that they have to run on a field, like I'm writing down every single rep. So then you can't run from a number. So a common conditioning that I do in the summer is, like, you're on a football field, we start at one goal line, I say go, you just run down and back for 1 minute and see how far you can get. Like, so say I get 300 yards in that minute. I write it down, okay, next rep, see what you get. Okay, so then I have that for the first time we do it. We'll retest that maybe 3-4 weeks later. I can go, all right, Jane, we did 300 in our first rep. Let's see if we beat that. So whether it's 305, the next one. So they can't hide from a number.
And they're competing against themselves, right?
Competing against themselves as well as their teammates.
Yeah.
So the competition aspect, I mean, these kids are elite level athletes. So you have to have some sort of competitive drive, whether it's, they don't want to be the one that's behind. Okay, so that's a motivating factor as well. but yeah, it's really getting them to not be able to run away from anything and just know that I have their best interest in mind, and I know what you're capable of based on prior experience and based off of experience from my past now. Like I have numbers dating all the way back to 2016 when I first started this thing. So I can compare teams, I can compare, hey, this is what these ladies that got drafted in the WNBA, this is what they did. Do you want to do that? Okay, well, let's get closer to these metrics. So it's that's one thing that they can compare and really know. But honestly, I say to recruits all the time. Well, I guess I say to the kids when they get here all the time. No one's going to say that they don't think they work hard. Everyone will be like, hey, do you work hard? Yeah, I work hard. Yeah. They don't know what hard work is a lot of the time. So it's easy by setting standards of you have to finish this in a certain amount of time. You have to lift this. This is where things are at. They quickly realize, like, okay, this is what hard work is.
That's when you get to people talk about playing college sports like it's like a full-time job, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can't rely on athleticism only anymore, right?
100%. And the best ones are great athletes, but also understand the importance of every detail, not just whether it's in the weight room, on the court, nutrition,
in
sleep,
the film room.
Yeah. They show up to everything and they're ready to go on everything. The ones that aren't the best of the best, they have flaws in certain areas and they need to mature, or they just won't make it to the top level if that's the case.
So this is obviously a leadership and a mental health podcast. So talk about the mind-body connection as you see it from your standpoint.
I mean, I say in the weight room in particular, it is way more mental than it is physical. Getting them to believe, like once they understand that it's just training at the end of the day. This is not, like, I don't determine playing time, okay? So once they realize it's the most even playing field they can have. Like you could be the worst one on the team from a basketball perspective, but you could be the best one in the weight room. So once you get over the hump of like, there's so many challenging conditionings or lifts, whatever it is, that they're just like instantly people are like, I can't do that. Like I can't do that because they haven't done it. But once it's my job to kind of get them to that line, like, hey, you haven't done this before, but I've seen many people do it that are in the same position as you. You can do it. I believe you can do it. And once that clicks and they realize, oh, I do belong here. I am capable of this. The results just skyrocket. And sometimes it takes longer for some people than others. It may take into the junior year for some people to finally get it. But when they do, it's really rewarding for me. And just like, again, it's so much more mental, and that's the performance depends on that. Once they understand, oh, I am capable of a heck of a lot more than I originally thought, it's really, really cool to see. So a lot of times it's just training your mind, doing hard things helps you. I talk about building the bank of suck. I say that to the athletes all the time. If you go through something really, really hard, you're going to be able to pull through that. Like me personally with my training, I ran a marathon before. It's pretty, not very fun, right? So if I go on a 6-mile run, that's not fun either, but I'm like, well, it's not a marathon, so I can do that, So it's getting them to certain points. It's like, okay, I've done this. This might have been the hardest thing I've ever done. And I do another workout that's a little bit less than that. Like, okay, this is still hard, but it ain't that. Like I can do
that, yeah.
And then over time, you can start, okay, that was the hardest thing. Maybe we push a little bit more. And then, so it's just a gradual progression of everything, whether that's lifting, conditioning, however it be. But yeah, it's just slowly getting to that point, not just hitting them hammering them right when they start, but gradually getting to a point and then hammering it. So
all the players, all the stories, like what are some key highlights of some stories that really just rise to the top of like, man, I made a difference. Oh, yeah. I had deep impact. What comes to mind for you?
Really cool. And I didn't mention it at the beginning. At Indiana, before when I got hired on full time, but even before, I worked with the swimming programs there. So men's and women's swimming. Even when I got women's basketball, I still trained the swimming team. I think I trained them for 8 or 9 years. And with that, I've been able to train, I think it's so many, I can't remember all their names probably off the top of my head, but 16 plus Olympians. One of which is American, Her name is Annie Laser, and this is probably the most proud I've ever been in my career. Annie, she was a breaststroker, one of the best in the United States, one of the best in the world. She was prepping for the Tokyo Games, so 2020 Games, but actually were in 2021. She was ready to go like in 2020, but then games get canceled, moved to the next year. So she was older too, so that was like a big deal. She's like, shoot, like younger.
Did I miss my window?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Younger kids are going to start getting better, so on and so forth. So how swimming works, you have Olympic trials, and then which is in June, and then the Olympics is in July. So a month before, and arguably the Olympic trials are 10x more stressful and difficult than the Olympics themselves. To make the Olympic team for the United States, you have to finish top 2 in your event. Okay, so first or second out of everyone in the country. So Annie, she's training for trials coming up in June. A month before, her dad suddenly passed away from a heart attack. So just horrible. Like in the meat of it, she's just about to start taper, and she's about to swim the biggest meet of her life. She continues training. She pushes through that really difficult time. She ends up making the Olympic team in the 200 breaststroke, which is her second best event. Her first best event was the 100. She didn't make it in the 100, and that was first. So it's like all the pressure in the world is on her to make it for this 200. She has to finish second, and she did in the 200, made the Olympics. At the Olympic Games, then she won a bronze medal. So awesome, third place. It's funny, one of her teammates, Lily King, she's a current world record holder in the breaststroke event, so they're training partners. She finished first, Annie finished third, which was incredibly, super proud. But not only with the results, but afterwards, her coming into the weight room to see me when she got back from Tokyo, tears in her eyes, just thanking me for something that I was just doing my job, right? I was just there training her. But I was always a constant for her. No matter what, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 o'clock in the morning, I was there for the last 5 years, even through the most challenging part of her life. And that's something that I don't realize until someone says that to you. And it made me very, very, very proud of just, shoot, I felt like I was just doing my job, but the impact I made with her was awesome. And, that's probably the one that sticks out the most. I have plenty of others of people, whether it is, again, winning medals in the Olympics or getting drafted in the WNBA. We just had 4 ladies get drafted this year. Each one of them sending nice texts or card. That's why I do it. That's great and whatever. I can say, yeah, I trained this Olympian. Yeah, I trained the ladies that are playing in the WNBA. But the impact that I have a lady who's on the Seattle Storm right now, Mackenzie Holmes. She was just playing in Australia before the WNBA season started, and she's texting me about like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into personal training or strength and conditioning after I'm done playing. Like, what are some things, like just being able to pick my mind and have that relationship with her that she feels comfortable to reach out, and hopefully I can help her out in some way, so.
I love that, because it is like it goes back to what you said earlier around, and you get to have so much conversation and build so much trust, and something about the weight room too. Like there's a connection around lifting and putting your body to the brink of breakdown, exhaustion, and that vulnerability that comes with that, and like connecting with people in the midst of that. And that's why people come back from war, and they're obviously, they've been through the trenches together. And so you're with people in those vulnerable moments, and that does create a bond.
100%.
I don't know, to get to see that continue beyond just their 4 years here or less than that, that does have to feel rewarding.
Yeah, it 100% does. And like you said, like suffering, which is like, it's harsh to say with anything that we do in the weight room, but hard things or things that you go through with a group of people, I think is extremely important. I think that's why the summer for our basketball team is arguably the most important time for training, even though it's the furthest away from the competitive season, because we get all of these, especially now, we get all of these brand new faces in every single year. How do you create a bond? Well, going through difficult things with people automatically creates that bond, right? So I think from a culture standpoint, from helping build, like, this is how we do things in this program, this summer, and getting all these new faces together and challenging them, I mean, it just makes people closer instantly. So I think it's a really important part of the job as well.
This is a little bit more on the logistics side of strength and conditioning alongside a college program of the caliber of the University of Kentucky. I'm biased, lifelong Kentucky fan. What is your role in the recruiting process with the basketball team?
It depends. So my role at Kentucky is different than my role that was at Indiana. Not a ton, to be honest. When they come on campus on official or unofficial visits, I usually meet them. Here it's a 10, 15-minute conversation. I'll show them the room. I'll show them a little bit of the stuff that we utilize technology-wise, whatever it is. But it's more so me talking with the assistants. Okay, does this kid really value what we're doing in here, or is it like, hey, let's just show them, and then they're more interested in this or that or that.
And then you calibrate
exactly based on what they want. When I was at Indiana, I had a PowerPoint presentation where I was talking to these kids for 30 minutes just about all the nuts and bolts and the stuff that we track and all that. And that's what they wanted. Coach Brooks here is like, no, like, we just want them to see you. If we need to, like, I've texted kids and stuff, but recruiting wise, fortunately, I got in here to not do that. So isn't the most crucial part of my job, but I meet them, and kids we have a kid from Kentucky who's a 2029, I think. She's been on campus already 5 or 6 times. So it's like you build relationships just by seeing them at games or, different unofficial visits or camps that they come to. So over the time, they get a face of the name and you get to know them a little bit that way.
You said earlier, like, thinking about the different parts of the year, the different seasons, in season, off season. So in season, what's that look like as far as your day-to-day, week-to-week? You traveling with the team, not traveling with the team, all that?
Yeah. In season is much different than off season. So right now, like in the off season, I kind of have free reign, right? I'm the main priority, if you will, in the off season. Yes, they'll have workouts and stuff on the court, but it's much less time than what they spend in season. They can spend only 4 hours on the court in the off season. That's it. NCAA limits you to that. So.
And what is that off season window in Division I?
For basketball, we have an 8-week off season. So it was June and July, basically, those 2 months. So in that time, you have 8 hours a week that you can make mandatory for them to train. So 4 of those can be basketball. The other 4 are with me. Or sometimes it's only 3 basketball, 5 with me, however we want to divide those 8 hours. When you get in season, that instead of 8 hours, you get 20. So obviously practices then are much longer. You go from maybe an hour on the court to 2.5, 3 hours on the court every day. So with that, I can't push them as hard as I was in the off season. Otherwise, they're going to break down. And at that point, the priority switches, right? Like basketball we want them to be really good at basketball. I don't care if their bench continues to increase.
Is it more about maintenance?
More so maintenance. I look at it this way. In season is the biggest chunk of time, though. So we have 6 months, okay? So if you're the exact same when we start the season in the end of October as you would be in the end of March, I haven't done a good job. Like, you should still continue to progress, right? It's just much slower. Mm-hmm. I go from 4 days a week training to 2 to 3 days a week training, and the lifts are much, much shorter. So about 30 minutes opposed to an hour. Now it's just difficult at that point with schedule. Fortunately, with the SEC, it's always we play Thursday and Sunday. So I can bank on that. That's what our schedule looks like when we're in conference play. So I can plan accordingly with the weight room. Okay, that means Monday is going to be our off day. Tuesday is going to be a lift day, and then Friday is going to be a lift day. So I can adjust what that looks like. So, but oftentimes it depends. Then you look at, okay, these are the low minute ladies. These are the high minute ladies. The ladies that are playing 30 plus minutes a game, they probably shouldn't be doing as much as the ladies that are playing 10 minutes or less a game. So it looks a little bit different depending on what your role is on the team. Whether you're a freshman that still needs to develop your body, you're going to be doing something different than, again, the 5th-year senior or the starting point guard that has been around for 5 years, whatever it is. So the biggest difference is the intensity still stays high, so the weight on the bar is still normal, but the volume goes down a lot. So whether it's the volume with the total time or the volume with how many reps we do, that's what's going to get people sore and break down muscle. It's not necessarily how much weight you're doing, it's how many times you're doing that weight, right? So it's just dictating reps and intensity. That's all it is.
How has NIL, you've been here long enough to see different sides of it, how has that changed your specific lane? Or has it?
It has. No, it definitely has. More so how you can talk to them. They're now getting paid money to do this. So that's a thing I can rely on. It's like you make more than some of these assistant coaches, and they're showing up. I'm showing up every day and working my tail off. What's your excuse? You need to do that. You're compensated for that. So I won't be that blunt, but that is I have more. Coach Brooks talks about that all the time.
Like, there's higher accountability on them now.
You're a professional. You need to act like a professional. This is not amateur sports anymore. You can't just take a day off because you don't feel like coming in. Like if you do that in the real world, you're not going to last at your job very long. If you decide you don't want to work that day, you're not going to work. So it's that mindset, because they still are young, right? They're 18 to 22, maybe 23 years old. So understanding that aspect of things is the hardest thing for them to grasp. But the more that Coach Brooks, myself, other coaches hit on, like, hey, this is your job. This is a job now. You can't just you have to show up and do your best every single day. And that's all we ask. We don't ask you to be superhuman every day. We get it. But yeah, it has changed in that aspect, because again, they fall back on there's a level like, oh yeah, I got to earn my paycheck, right? So there's that aspect of it too.
So when it comes to young people and mental health, I'm finding that there's a lot more public knowledge about mental health, even if just there's a vocabulary for it and people connecting issues. And some people, everybody says they're depressed, and that's a clinical definition, and we're not going to split hairs there, but like, what have you seen from your perspective on this, I guess, an elevation of how much mental health is observed and recognized and spoken about?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I think, again, you mentioned like during COVID, I do think it's jumped up since after COVID, and a lot of people are more willing to share, but I say all the time, like, I do not envy this generation of kids at all. Like, I was fortunate that I didn't have social media growing up, and
we didn't have phones.
Yes, and before that, and so now I don't care. Like, I do not care what anyone else says. I don't care. They do, and there is a ton of pressure on them dealing with whether with his outside people on social media, whether just a ton of different pressure on these ladies and just athletes in general. So I do think people have gotten a heck of a lot more open in sharing, but also I do think resources are definitely more available and spoken about. Like, we have sports psychologists here employed by the athletic department that will meet with these ladies and all the athletes multiple times a year, just letting them know, hey, we're here. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to us, we have other people that you can go talk to as well. I know we have, whether that's just from a sports psychology aspect to depression or other things of that nature, I bet a good portion of these athletes are taking advantage of those things, whether it's just someone to talk to or something like that. So I think a lot of it,
so encouraging to hear.
Yes, a lot of it post-COVID is more so like, hey, we have these things available, and it is not, the stigma is becoming less and less, which is awesome to see, about having to talk to someone, or shoot, like, some people don't want to go there, and they'll talk to, whether it's me, our athletic trainer, our dietitian, one of the assistant coaches. Like, that's become way more, again, having an open door policy of like, just come in and shoot the crap with me in my office for a little bit, whether that, hey, I'm struggling, or I'm really feeling this, like, it's really tough, like, coaches' expectations, I don't know if I can meet. So that's another thing that it doesn't have to be so like, oh, I made this appointment with this person to sit down and talk about whatever problem I have. I think everyday conversations are an aspect of helping deal with whatever you're struggling with mental health wise. So I definitely have. I'll echo seeing an uptick in not only the resources being promoted, as well as people willing to share and utilize them, which has been awesome.
Yeah, the destigmatization, which still needs to happen, and it's very different generationally. In my private practice, I talk to college students all the time, and a lot of times it's like when you're getting family history, it's like, well, I couldn't say this to my parents; they don't believe in mental health.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what's your family mental health history? I don't. They don't.
Yeah.
They deny it, or I see things, but they don't recognize it, and so eventually these young people are going to be the parents and grandparents, and so I'm excited about the upcoming generations to have just a healthier aspect to it, that destigmatization. So you're at a spot where you are a trusted confidant, and so how do you navigate, like, okay, this is maybe beyond my training or beyond my role here. How do I get additional help? How do you navigate that?
So if it is something very serious, like if it's I'm having suicidal thoughts or something like that, I have to tell them, like, if you're expressing that to me, I have to tell other people. So they know that going into it. I'm like, hey, straight up, I got to tell. So I go up the chain. So I'll go to obviously our athletic trainer, but then go to our sport administrator, and I'll let the rest of the coaching staff know so they're all on the same page, right? But if it's not something as extreme as that, then again, I'm a male too, so oftentimes there is like a little bit of apprehension with female athletes talking to me. Maybe they're more comfortable talking to another female. So it's all dependent on relationship. So our athletic trainer is a female, so that's the next person. Hey, such and such came to me and they're talking. Maybe you should like check in and see what they say, if they'll open up a little bit more about it to you. And oftentimes that's all it is. It's like, okay, there's something they might be going through something. Like, let me talk to their position coach and maybe they can hammer home. And usually when multiple people are kind of ask them how they are or what's going on, like then they realize, okay, like people are here for me for one.
I'm valued here.
100%. And if it needs to, then you take the next step of like, okay, maybe we should talk to someone else or like a professional or something along those lines. But again, if it's something super serious, I go up the chain right away. But it's more so just making sure everyone's on the same page within the program, whether it's myself, the athletic trainer, the sport coaches, just so we all know what's going on in these young ladies' lives, so we can support them the best we can.
Let's talk about the different levels of the competition from high school to professional. What are the different levels, and is one a bigger jump to the other? Kind of talk about that from what you've experienced.
Yeah, well, surely you would. There's the biggest jump is high school going to college, right? So they get filtered out based off of obviously just more physical metrics, anything. So like we're obviously not going to recruit someone that is 5'2" and slow and can't jump and all that, even if they scored 28 points a game in their high school. Like, it's just not going to necessarily translate. So you have to have certain physical attributes to even make it to the college Division I level at the SEC. So that's definitely the biggest jump. Okay, then the difference between everyone's good if you're at this level in the SEC and at Kentucky. Everyone's a really good basketball player, but the difference between the really good ones and the ones that are going and get drafted in the WNBA, or like my swimming, just a swimmer that's on the team, like even a Big Ten champion compared to an Olympian, those differences are not that big. It's a very fine line between the elite and just the really good. And really, the main thing is what I've noticed with my most successful and the All-Americans, the Olympians, the biggest change is they take everything seriously. They do their best in every aspect of their career, whether that's their diet, whether that's their sleep, whether that's how they train the weight room, whether that's what they do on the court. Every single thing's important to them. So even if they don't, like I said to you earlier, I don't think I could pull almost every one of my athletes. Do they love the weight room? They would probably say no. But the best.
Don't take it personal, Kevin, but no.
But the best ones at least still understand the importance of it. So it's showing up every single day as consistent as you can. And what the coolest thing is, that looks different for even the elite ones. So I'll use Georgia Amore was number 6 pick in not last year's draft, the year before. So I worked with her for 1 year here, and then I had Grace Berger for 5 years at Indiana, who was the number 7 pick in the WNBA draft a few years ago. Those two are the 2 best guards I've ever coached or been around, and they couldn't be any more different from a personality standpoint. But that doesn't mean one worked harder than the other. They both showed up and did everything exactly how you would ask them to and worked their tail off, did all the extra work you could. Grace was so locked in and serious and stoic. Georgia wouldn't goof around. She'd be dancing. She's a very big, vibrant personality. And that was a big learning thing for me. I was used to, like, the best ones I had were like this. You got to take things serious. But then Georgia showed me and taught me, like, well, no, like that's how she is at her best. Like, I'm not gonna stay in the way of that. So it looks different even on the highest of scales. So, but yeah, the difference between the elite level and just your really good player isn't as big as you even think. It's just they're obviously all physically very talented and gifted and very skilled at their sport, but they don't take days off and they make sure everything is to a T with any aspect of their training.
You may train the Olympian the same as you do the, the average person on the team. But it's more about the big differentiator is their response to the training, how they're choosing to show up, how serious they're taking it.
100%.
Is that fair?
100%. Very fair. Yeah, like I said, they show up every single day. Now, again, training's different. Like, this person may need to work on this aspect and continue to improve this compared to another one. But like, it's hard. It is hard being a elite level athlete. Like, we ask them to do a lot of things, not only that they don't want to do, but it's physically demanding, it's mentally demanding, and they have to do it day in and day out. So it is a grind. Can you show up with the same energy and intensity and intent in October as you do in the middle of February when it's in the middle of the grind? Like, can you do that? It's really hard, and most people can't keep it consistent like that.
The potential next Kevin in the world, like what kind of insights, wisdom, like what would you like to pass on to people who might be interested or who maybe were like you and you're like, I didn't know that was a job?
Yeah. No, I struggle with that because oftentimes it's like the imposter syndrome sometimes. I feel like I was just so lucky, right? And just being in the right place, right time. Because I got a director job when I was 25 years old. Like, that's very rare. Usually in strength and conditioning, it's very similar to just coaching in general, where you're climbing this ladder. You're
moving all over the place.
Yeah. And I grinded, don't get me wrong. Like, I made my own luck in a lot of ways. But the word of advice I would say is make the big time where you're at. So, like, no matter if you're just this unpaid intern, like I was at Indiana when I started, be the best unpaid intern out there. Like, take care of that before you worry about the next thing. A lot of people in my profession chase the logo. They want to get to the Kentucky. They want to get to the Indiana, but they're focused on that. So their job at hand suffers. So make the big time where you're at, because then the jobs will come. I wasn't looking for this job, right? I just did my job as best I could, and eventually I got a phone call, you know.
Thank God you answered the call.
I know, right? And but yeah, make the big time where you're at, and no one's going to hand you anything, especially in my field, really in any field. No one's going to just give you something. So I think a lot of time young coaches think, I have my master's degree, like I should be able to hop right in and do this. It's like, you're not entitled to anything. Yeah, some people do get a job right out of graduation and all that, but it's like, you got to, unfortunately, which is a flawed system in strength and conditioning, you got to grind and you got to tough it out for a couple years before you really kind of make it. So, but yeah, just do the best you can at where you're at and treat that as the most important thing. You'll end up impressing a lot of people. That and networking. You got to talk to people, you know, whether it's at a different conference, whether that's at your own spot. Like me, thinking back in my career, I was at Indiana for a long time, but I knew every single person in the athletic department, not just in strength and conditioning. I knew the sport coaches. They knew who my name was. The athletic director knew who I was, you know, so it's just branching out and knowing, oh, this person in the business office, like, so it's just, you can network in your own spot. It's not necessarily cold calling another coach or anything else. Like, it's just, again, getting to know people that are around you and that end up, you never know what door can open up based off of whatever random relationship you have.
Well, and just like you're intentional in the weight room with connection with the players, it's like, okay, there's all kinds of relational opportunities around me, and it's showing up and being intentional with those opportunities, and that's really what networking is, being intentional with relationships.
Yeah, and I say to like young interns that maybe have worked with me, like networking is not like, don't come and ask for something. Like, it is like, what can you provide them, or what do you ask a specific question? I always hate when I get emails or texts from people I've met before, young strength coaches that are just like, hey, can we just talk shop? It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't just want, but if you have a specific question that you want to utilize what my expertise might be, then absolutely I'll look to help you. And then that stems into a different conversation. So it's like, that's how you approach things from the networking side of, like, don't ever just be general, because you're not many people are going to bite, but, oh, you work in this with this team or this thing. Let's ask you a question about that. Hey, can I get on the phone? Can you go into that? And then it leads into more conversation.
And for the non-sports people listening, which is going to be most of the audience that aren't in high-level athletics, this is so transferable to business. When you're, you know, I hear this all the time in leaders who get frustrated with their supervisees, because, you know, it's like, man, they show up to meetings and it's like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And it's like, I want the people who I'm leading to show their hunger, to show their thoughtfulness, to show that, hey, they knew we had a 15-minute window, and they came with a question to help them do their job. It wasn't just open-ended and expecting me to lead it, which I love that hunger aspect of, like, hey, so the leaders listening, like, man, put some thought, like, what is it you need to know, capitalize on the relationships around you, but show up showing that you put the work in.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And the similarities between any field, like athletics is so similar to the business aspect of things, because it's all at the bare bones of it. It's like that. It's how do you work with people is what it comes down to, and how do you interact with people? How do you utilize someone that you can learn from, and what questions you ask? And it makes a big difference. No, it doesn't matter if you're in athletics, if you're in business, if you're in any other profession. I think it definitely carries over in both senses.
Well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me, Kevin. I really appreciate it, man.
No problem at all. I appreciate you having me. Athletics is so similar to the business aspect of things, because it's all at the bare bones of it. It's like that. It's how do you work with people is what it comes down to, and how do you interact with people? How do you utilize someone that you can learn from, and what questions you ask? And it makes a big difference. No, it doesn't matter if you're in athletics, if you're in business, if you're in any other profession. I think it definitely carries over in both senses.